Right. Hello, welcome. Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight, episode 42, I think. Trying really hard to remember what the number is because it's quite large. So, thank you, Zelda Cube. We got Ultra Pear here, primarily a Mario Kart time trialer. As a Mario Kart fan myself, this should be interesting because I'm not too familiar with the scene. I've seen a bit here and there, but I'm excited to dive in, you know. So how you doing? Welcome.
Oh, not too shabby. Just enjoying my well, it's Sunday today, but work week. It's my Saturday, so I'm enjoying some time off and getting to chill, talk some Mario Kart. Looking forward to it.
I do like the Mario Kart. It's always a good time. I play it even to this day very frequently, especially Wii, which I know you're probably very familiar with, so
Definitely my most played one for sure. Well, most enjoyable one as well.
yeah, it's definitely my favorite by far, personally. I
Hmm.
know like the item balance people complain about a little bit, but I don't know. It's always been the one I've been the best at, so I'd like to return to it.
Oh yeah, the item balance. I'm not very good at online, but and as much as I complain about the item balance sometimes, it's definitely a lot more fun than some of the other ones. It makes it a lot more interesting when you actually play against other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't tried online in a while because I know there are like servers that are up now, but I like play on Dolphin now because I need to work on my Wii a bit if I want to actually use it.
Hmm.
But yeah.
I definitely find online a lot more fun when I'm playing it less, actually. It's way more fun to play, like, every couple weeks or even once every, like, 2 months or something than it is to play, like, every day. But, I mean, it's always a good time at the very least.
Yeah. I enjoy my time with the game. And especially nowadays, there's so much content you can dabble into,
Hmm.
keep the experience fresh, which is always fun. But yeah, getting
Oh,
into
yeah.
the speedrun side of things, how did you get started on your little journey in speedrunning here?
I I've not been into speedrunning for as long as a lot of people have. Me getting into speedrunning happened back in 2018, September specifically. You'll probably notice that's about the time that the Summoning Salt Mario Kart Wii video came out.
It was that
Um,
long ago,
oh yeah.
huh?
I
Wow.
ended up clicking on that video and watching it, and I got a lot of nostalgia because I do remember watching some of the ultra shortcuts from like 2010 and 2011 because
Mm-hmm.
I played quite a bit back then, and I saw some of them on YouTube. Some of them I tried to do and failed very badly at it. Um, but I ended up watching the video, enjoying it very much. I looked through a bunch of old childhood stuff that I had and found a copy of the disc, decided to start playing, and I mean, I've been playing Mario Kart ever since. So you can imagine I had a good time with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very fun to play. Um, I was never into like I played it. God, how long have I had that game? At least 2008 or something. Um, and I even like let her bomb my Wii in 2010 just to play custom content back when CTGP was super early. So I've been around a
Mm.
while, but I never got into like the time trial side of things. I just liked the having more content in the game. And back then, the custom content was very sketchy. It's
Oh
amazing how
yeah.
much it's grown since then.
It's crazy how many people like develop custom tracks for, a game from 15 years ago without like any kind of compensation or anything. They just do it for the fun of it. It's crazy how many tracks there are that are like really good that aren't even in the pack.
Yeah, and I mean, the number of just how many there are at all is staggering, I'd say. I know there's a distribution I have that I think tries to put everything in it, and there's like 4,000 of them,
Oh jeez.
something like that. It's just a couple, you know.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of them. I don't even know how worth it that'd be to download, but I mean, you'd play a new track basically every race.
You
I don't know
could,
how
and
often
I'm
you'd be
sure
repeating.
most of them are of varying quality, let's just say. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's wild. I don't think any other Mario Kart game has even anywhere close to that amount of custom content for it.
Yeah, no, not even close. The only other games I've even seen like custom track content for are uh, Mario Kart 64 and Mario Kart 7, and the scenes definitely aren't anywhere close to as big.
Yep. Mario Kart 64 is definitely having some more stuff around. I've seen a little bit. It's a couple good. There's like one like amped up or something I've seen, but
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm aware of any other like full on packs of tracks or whatever. But yeah, I know DS has their own little thing. Mario Kart 7 has their own like CTGP thing, which is nice. I've dabbled around with that a little bit for fun. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm sure Super Circuit doesn't have much of anything just because that's got to be hard. Super
Mhm.
Mario Kart surely has some ROM hacks here and there. Double Dash, I'm not familiar with. And yeah, 8, that's got to be hard to develop for. So Wii is far and above just the like perfect place for people to make stuff for, I guess.
Oh yeah. If you want to stretch the definition of custom track, I think you could argue some of the 8 Deluxe DLC ones are would fall into that category.
Hmm. I mean, that's officially developed.
Yeah.
It's not.
I don't know, some of them just feel a little like underwhelming visually, especially.
Yeah,
Maybe
they
that's just me.
definitely got a little better, I think. But I mean, yeah, you can tell it's not the same as the original release of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember Coconut Mall when that one came out. That one, I was really looking forward to it coming out, but it just a lot of it felt flat color wise. There just wasn't like that much going on outside of the actual track itself.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But I mean, it's a great deal for the amount of content you get for what is it like $25 or whatever? Like it's next to nothing.
Yeah, I won't argue with that. They're as much as I like to dog on them a bit. They are still like good tracks. They're still high quality tracks. And for $25 you get all the way up to 192. I think that's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, plenty of content for sure. Like almost there's almost just 100 tracks in the game. Almost. It's right there.
Oh, I was thinking 192 categories with 200 cc. My bad. 92 tracks. Still worth it.
Oh, I
92.
see. Yeah, I don't know how that's all organized, but yeah, there's so much content in that game. It is ridiculous now.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's got to make some fun speed runs for people that want to play like whatever it is, 92. I don't know the number, but yeah, just
Yeah, I've actually thought about doing that myself once all the DLC tracks come out. I'm not like a very big fan of long speed runs. I think me maining Mario Kart time trials would demonstrate that. But I feel like, if you play, 92, 96, it's 96. 96 tracks for a couple weeks. I mean, I can imagine having a lot of fun with that, even if it's, gives you all the frustration of Mario Kart.
yeah, I was at Pace last month and they had a little LTA for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but it was everything except booster courses. But that was
Mhm.
still like an hour and a half or something.
Oh, yeah.
So you double that. It's like, oh my god. And they were playing 200 cc. I can't imagine. I'm sure 150 is pretty popular too. So that
Hmm.
just adds a bunch more time to it.
I think it'd be a lot more tolerable to run if loading screens weren't a thing.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's a lot of Mario Kart, a lot
That
of
is a
dopamine going
lot.
through, a lot of adrenaline. I mean, I think that makes up for
Yeah, constantly on edge just because of
it.
items.
Just getting sniped out of nowhere, just kind of how Mario Kart goes.
A little bit, but yeah, it's very interesting the full game runs, I guess. Because so much can happen because in time trials you just have your mushrooms or whatever, but they have to deal with so much RNG from just the game. Every single run you do is going to be completely different.
You're never ever gonna get a run that you feel close to satisfied with. I do think there's value in that in and of itself. just as a speedrunner and always wanting to improve.
You have content forever if you really
Oh
want
yeah.
it, because it's never gonna be perfect.
Exactly.
But yeah, definitely very fun. It's fun to watch. Like Mario Kart 64 especially is really good with a like full game run, just because of how
Oh
that
yeah.
game works.
It's definitely one of my favorites. Just as, it's very much a treat to watch all the ultra short. No, they're not ultra shortcuts in 64, but all the skips. They're called in 64. I'm watching the top guys like Abney and Kazan. It's just fascinating to watch just all of the quick inputs that they have to do,
it is
just in
it's crazy,
succession,
and
and
the
just
amount of
it's
RNG you
making
need to
it.
go your way is God, it's crazy. That's a very unique Mario Kart, I'd say, with
Oh,
that kind of stuff
absolutely.
because
Any run can be brought back pretty much if you just get good enough luck.
yeah, but even the skips in that game are like very unique, I think. I know like Mario Kart has its ultra shortcuts as well, but they seem a little different. Like you can't just jump over a wall and call it a day. It's a little more technical and I don't know. It's just interesting. Like Mario 64 is almost like a beginner friendly skips kind of learning because you don't have to do the like ridiculous stuff, which does exist too.
I could definitely agree with that because a lot of skips at NK64 rely on like tight inputs and having a particular approach to something, as opposed to Wii, where a lot of the ultra shortcuts involve like a wall clip or something, which you don't really have much control over. You can put yourself in a good position to get a wall clip, but actually getting the height necessary from the clip is a lot of it's luck.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then 64, you just, go to Wario Stadium and you can beat in 30 seconds pretty easily by just jumping over walls. It's not too difficult
It's
in
definitely
comparison, I guess. That's what I'm
it's
trying to say.
definitely fun how broken those tracks can get really fast. In theory, all you're doing is literally just doing one input on a wall and just skipping half the track, and then half the track, and then half the track, and it's bam, course is over in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Mario Kart's fun that way. This
It's a
every
great
game
time.
has something, but they're always so vastly different, pretty much. It's,
Yeah, every game has its own appeal for sure.
yeah, but plenty of content to go around, and all of it is very fun. So, um, but yeah, getting to the speedrun side of things. So, starting with Mario Kart, Wii, you said. So, do you remember like what kind of? I assume you did like time trials to start.
Yeah, I always got myself addicted to time trials to start with. I haven't dabbled too much outside of everything else. I've dabbled in like Mogi Lounge a little bit. That was an interesting phase. And I've done some like 32 track runs too. And that's really fun. Though, an hour of Mario Karts, it can get exhausting pretty quickly if you do more than one run at a time.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
can see
a
that.
lot of the appeal of I think time trials to me is just like how quickly a session, like a bad session, can be turned around by just like, oh, I've hit nothing this whole session, and all of a sudden in the last 80 seconds I've hit like two insane laps in a row, and all of a sudden I'm on a pace. Things can turn around very quickly like that with all the resets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does Mario Kart Wii do 150 cc for time trial?
Yeah, that's the only like official category that we have. CTGB does have a 200cc option, but there's no like official leaderboards for it anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, but I think like Mario Kart 64's time trials are 100, so I know some games vary, so I wasn't sure which one Mario Kart Wii did,
Yeah,
but
Wii is locked at 150, and I think
that's
it's really
good.
good that way.
Yeah, I mean to have the like fastest baseline thing is gonna be the best option, I think.
Oh
So,
yeah, absolutely.
so yeah, that's good. So,
I can only imagine how unpopular time trials in Wii would be if everything was stuck at 100cc.
like you don't think it'd be that effective, but I guess it would be quite a bit.
Makes a big difference.
I
I think it's like
wonder
a
how many
12% speed difference or something. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I wonder how many skips and stuff would be impossible just from that.
For sure, most of them. Um, Mushroom Gorge would be. very much possible still. Outside of that, honestly, I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, that's a complicated question, I guess.
Coconut Mall would definitely still be possible. I'm not really sure outside of that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few, and you're eliminating almost all of them, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah.
So thank God for their decision, because
Oh yeah.
since it was 100 in Mario Kart 64, they could have just kept it that way, but they didn't.
Mhm.
Good decision.
Godspeed to the
Thank
developers.
thank God. But yeah, so what are like the highlight time trials for Mario Kart Wii?
Oh geez. There's definitely some tracks that I think are better than others. I like the one that's fairly unpopular because of how like boring the track itself is. But I think SNES Mario Circuit 3 is a really fun one
Mm,
just because um every little thing that you do matters so much as far as time. Um
that's like a
it's
real
just
racetrack.
oh yeah, it's just all lines, all how quickly you can get the mini turbos and wheelies out. It's I find it a really good time anytime that I put time into it.
I can see it.
Yeah. Um I think Gold Mine's a really fun one for no glitch time trials.
No
Um
glitch. All right.
yeah. There's there's a strat that got found a little less than 2 years ago. I think it was January 2022. And I'm not sure if you know this, but there's like a little cave to the left side towards the end of the track with boost pads.
Oh, I had
And
no idea at all. What?
yeah, no.
Uh,
Uh, I got a little more popular, I guess, than I was thinking for a second. But for years, since the start of the game, everyone's been going there because we just assumed that it was faster. But then a player named Justin discovered that actually the normal path, the non-shortcut path, has been faster this entire time. Um,
hmm.
what you do is you go like slightly um, to the left of where like the dip is, and you insta wheelie, and you can get air from that, and it saves a lot of time from having to like go down and up in the dip, and it ends up being like point. It's like 120 faster
Hmm.
than doing the boost pad route, which is unbelievably funny because it's just completely worthless in time trials.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you're good enough at the detach strat, then it's also completely useless online. It's just very funny that way how things work out.
Yeah, that is interesting because yeah, you totally assume the path with a bunch of boost panels would be faster.
Yeah.
That just makes sense. But yeah, it's funny that you can like detach from the track. I remember like forever ago, I would see like because I think Mario Kart Wii you could like watch ghosts if you had a Wi-Fi connection just on the Wii.
Hmm.
And so I would look at the world records to see, and I know Rainbow Road they'd always like detach at the very start, that giant slope downward, and I never understood it.
Yeah, you have to use carts for that one. The carts are like 3 seconds faster than bike.
Hmm.
But that cart moon jump, if you have like a decent understanding of the mechanics of the game, it's I don't find it as hard as it necessarily looks. It's definitely a lot of fun to pull off, and it saves quite a bit of time as well.
Yeah, I just remember it again from like 2010 or something. So
Oh yeah,
I
I think
definitely
that's
didn't know
around
what
when
how to do it then.
yeah, I think that's around when records started using carts. Maybe it was like 2011, but it was around there.
Hmm.
It's the only track in the game where cart is faster.
Hmm. Is it just for that jump?
A lot of it is because the wheelie is negated because the track is covered in boost pads, and outside of a wheelie, you run at the same speed carts and bikes do on boost pads. So it negates a lot of the difference that a wheelie would make.
Hmm.
But there's that strat that saves a lot of time, and then there's a path switch towards the end of the track you can do on cart that also saves a lot of time.
Hmm.
That
I,
makes a lot of the extra difference between carts and bikes there.
I see. And now you can just ultra shortcut because it's so easy to
Exactly.
do that.
Yeah, I actually tried that one recently because Justin, same guy as the gold mine strat, found that using an outside drift bike, which outside drift has had its own evolution over the last like 2 years. If you just approach the fence in a very specific way with the shooting star, you can just clip off the fence. And somehow everyone's been overlooking that for the last 6 years, trying to make Quacker and Spear work.
Hmm. Well, how about that? I
Yeah,
only
it's a
knew
lot of
I
it's
only
it's a
knew
lot
about
of
that.
it's a lot of pain to try and get that one because of how precise that particular approach to the fence is. But I mean, it just visually looks so much easier than the other one, and it is easier and a lot faster.
Hmm. Because yeah, I just know like the summoning salt video, and that old strat with the boost panel and the like smaller bike jump thing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I didn't
things have
realize there's a
evolved quite
huge
a bit.
yeah.
Things have
Sounds like
evolved
it.
quite a bit since that one.
Wow. To make that more so like this strat would be faster and easier. Like could we potentially see like a it all 3 laps because it's still just the one, right, with the smaller bike? Or how much is it developed?
We actually have a 2 out of 3 run right now on top. I think we actually have. I think another player ended up getting a 2 out of 3 not too long after that run.
Hmm. Wow.
Um, but it is possible one shroom. So, I mean, theoretically, we'll see a 3 out of 3 one day. But how soon? I could not tell you.
And is this with this newer strat or that old one?
It's the newer strat. The old
Okay.
one. I mean, you can get 1 out of 3 on that one if you put an insane amount of time into it. But landing a one stream even in a TAS is it's insanely hard.
I see. Yeah. I didn't know there was a whole new strat for it. I just knew about the old boost panel bounce off the side kind of thing. So
Yeah,
very
the things
interesting
have
how
been.
much it's developed.
Yeah, the TAS scene, everything's just developed so much in the last year and a half. I'm not sure if you've seen some of the other developments with outside drift bikes, but there's something called super hopping that was found about 2 years ago.
Hmm. I know about like the jumping every frame kind of thing.
This is kind of taking advantage of the same mechanic, but
I
it
see.
is a different strat. Um, what you do is something called a spin drift with the outside drifting bike, and you can build sideways momentum with it. And if you do it fast enough, you can just build an insane amount of sideways momentum and always be moving at the speed of a shroom. It's not really something
Hmm.
that's viable RTA at the moment. It is theoretically, but for TAS, I mean, it's created like whole new categories, and now there's just a million categories for everything.
Hmm. Yeah, news to me.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And something else that's also kind of taking advantage of outside drift is something called super gliding. You end up getting stuck in the ground, and you can even more easily move at basically shroom speed. It's the game has been turned upside down on its head in the last 2 years, even more than it already was.
Wow. Crazy, actually. Jeez.
I definitely recommend checking it out sometime.
Yeah, I've like seen the tasks here and there, but this would have been before. Like I knew it had there was like huge like ultra shortcut boom in like the start of this decade, kind of.
Hmm.
But I didn't realize that there was like full on mechanic differences in understanding now.
Oh yeah,
That's
RTA hasn't been changed too much with all the outside drifting stuff. It's almost entirely been tasked, but there's been a couple things found. One of them is the Rainbow Road Ultra,
hmm.
which just changed the landscape of that category. Another one that got found towards the beginning of 2022 was Shy Guy Beach. All this time, last couple years, we had been clipping off like a bomb three and
Hmm.
a half minutes into the track for a flap time, and that's all you could end up doing. But once again, Justin coming out of the woodworks, you can approach the side of the track in a specific way and just clip off a wall underneath the water. And it gives you a ton of air. And if you get the right angle, you end up respawning and you just drive forward and count a lap. And it's
Hmm.
actually viable for a 3 lap time.
Like a wall underwater? Like,
Yeah. Shy Guy Beach is a little weird. The water doesn't like immediately cause you to respawn the moment you hit it. There's like a the actual respawn barrier is a decent bit below where the surface of the water is. So in the amount of time that you like fall under the water, you can clip off a little. I think it's a corner of the wall that you clip off of, and it just gives you a ton of air. You end up,
hmm,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, ton of developments I didn't know about then.
Oh yeah, it's
Wow.
been interesting to be a part of it all, watching it happen.
Yeah, so how many tracks have ultras then?
Ultra shortcuts and tasks. I think there's only 6 that don't have them at the moment. I
That's
think all of
crazy.
them have like categorized shortcut categories.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as actual ultras, I think it's still 6 that don't have them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
there's a pretty big difference between ultra and just a regular shortcut.
yeah,
Ultras are like abusing the checkpoint system to count laps, and then regular shortcuts are just, you know, the
yeah.
game is like, yeah, you're playing the track normally.
Super hopping is considered like a shortcut category by the task community. So,
Hmm.
like a year ago, we had a new, or I think Akari came out with a new task that utilized super hopping on it, and it was the last category in the game that, or the last track in the game that officially did not have like any kind of shortcut category at all on it. That ended up falling. It was very sad, but it was very interesting to see as well.
Hmm. Yeah. So that super hopping is like the on again, off again every frame glitch.
That's something called super grinding. Super hopping
Oh,
is like landing on the ground and immediately hopping in a certain way to
I
build
see.
sideways momentum. It's like regular hopping, but like not really.
Okay. Is it kind of like, a first day Mario 64, you hop the second you can and it like gives you a different thing? I don't know.
Yeah, essentially.
That's funny. Can you
You
like
hop land as
make
soon
it
as you.
at all useful in RTA?
Theoretically you could, but it'd be really hard to do. If there's any track that it's gonna happen on, it would be Mushroom Gorge, because you can combine some of the super hopping stuff that you can do with abusing I think this like the side of the mushrooms,
Hmm.
because that's not done. That hasn't been done RTA yet, not in a run. Um, the mushrooms slow you down to 73 uh, kilometers per hour. We call it. But if you hit like the side of the mushroom in a certain way, you don't end up getting that speed cap. So it is theoretically possible in a run. You can abuse both of those things and end up hitting a faster time than what the current record is. How
Hmm.
soon that'll be, I think it'll happen eventually. I've even thought about trying it, but it's insanely hard because you have to do all that, then do the gap jump at the end, which doing it at a really fast, in a really fast way with the shooting star is already harder than the regular flame runner strat. But you have to do all of that 3 times in one run, and I don't know how soon I see that happening.
Hmm. So this strat works better with a different bike, and that's why like the ending part would be difficult.
Yeah, you have to utilize outside drift for it,
Okay,
and
I see.
a big part of why it's going to be harder is because outside drift, like driving, like obviously the meta isn't nearly as developed as inside drift, just because it hasn't been utilized for the 13 years out of the game's existence, and it's really only just kind of started to have use in tasks. So RTA, will see how soon that stuff can develop.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I forever just assumed Funky Kong Flame Runner was every fucking track. I know there's a few exceptions, but now it sounds like that is not the case.
It still is for no glitch, but that could change in the future for sure.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's developing towards that not being the ultimate combo, at least for a lot of different tracks.
It'll be interesting to see.
But yeah, just back in the day, just I remember every world record I saw was that same combo,
I want
pretty
to say
much.
probably I want to say probably like 22 or 23 out of the 32 tracks no glitch still use Flame Runner. It's a
Hmm.
lot of them for sure. It's definitely still a dominant combo.
Does the character you play as have an effect?
There are a couple like buffs that each character has. Funky Kong just so happens to have like a tiny bit of drift handling and
Hmm.
speed, which is particularly useful for time trials, but the effect isn't like major, but it does make the difference in time trials.
Interesting. Yeah, I know like again like Mario Kart 64. I just happen to know a little bit about that, but even though there's like 8 characters, I think there's only 3 different weight classes, and you can choose like any character in that weight class and have the same effect. So I wasn't sure if other games kind of followed that formula or if they change each character slightly. So
Um,
sounds like a little bit.
I know, like, yeah, I know um, the SNES one, the GBA one, and the 64 one. I know all of those have like that same weight class system. I don't think that's the case with the rest of the games. Double Dash, I'm not entirely sure. Um, I know that DS has different character stats for each player, and I'm pretty sure it's definitely different for the rest of them as well.
Hmm. Yeah, they.
I think I think technically 7 isn't like that, but Metal Mario has like a slightly smaller hitbox that makes it just like easier to play.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, I know Mario Kart Wii specifically has like the little stats when you choose your vehicle, but I would just assume like the characters would kind of have the same statistics. And maybe they do. It's just something else that the game kind of doesn't tell you about.
Yeah, they're hidden stats essentially.
Hidden stats.
It never tells you about that in game. You have to be, in the know for that.
Yeah. That's interesting because yeah, there's no way to know that just
Hmm.
offhand. So
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of that because I know that's the case with like Mario Kart 7 and 8. Some of the vehicle parts just like have hidden effects like driving faster underwater. And I really
hmm.
wish it would tell you that kind of thing. I think it'd be a lot better for those kind of games casually, but I mean, who am I to talk?
Yeah, it would be nice to know information, I guess, but
Yeah.
gonna hide it from us. Those jerks. No, but yeah, so what have you dabbled in the most in like the time trial for Wii specifically? You said Mario
Um,
Circuit 3 was a good one.
that's a really good one. I've put a good amount of time into all of them. I don't think there's like one particular superior track. As far as quality or fun, I don't think I put like a ridiculous amount more time into any one track than others. I think Luigi's Circuit might be up there. That's one of the ones that doesn't use Flame Runner. It uses the Spear, which has a
Hmm.
higher speed stat but a much lower mini turbo and drift. Um, oh gosh, I'd have to think about that one. I just put like 7 weeks into Dry Ruins at like the beginning of the year. I don't normally have the patience to drive tracks for that long, like speed run anything for that amount of time. But something about Dry Ruins just like it hooked me. It's a lot more unique than from the other tracks in the game, just because every lap is gonna be different.
Hmm. Yeah, that
I think
track
that
has a
was a
lot of
large part.
changes.
Oh yeah, I think that's probably a big part of why Dry Ruins was so fun. I'd recommend that one to anyone that has like a good handling of the mechanics of the game. I think it's just really addicting once you get like things figured out on it. Once you get past the initial frustration.
I know that track had that super wild TAS only ultra shortcut thing from the video.
Oh yeah, I think that was the bullet bike one. Um,
Just looks so absurd.
it's just a ridiculous amount of air that you have to get for it. I find that kind of crap really fun to see.
But yeah, yeah. I'm aware of mainly just the ultra stuff because that's obviously going to be the most interesting to a casual observer. Like, what the fuck's going on? But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll have to look at more like the normal tracks because they focus more on just like control of your vehicle, right? Like they
Mhm.
usually don't have the same kind of tech like ridiculous tech knowledge to do absurd whatevers.
Yeah, no glitch can be definitely a bit of a slog to get through when there's so many tracks to keep up on for speedrunning purposes. But I think the mechanics of Mario Kart Wii help keep everything really interesting. And every track in Wii specifically, I think, is very unique in comparison to each other one. You can't like really carry any specific like mechanic to any other track. It's a lot of it's like really specific track knowledge that you have to play each one. So
Mhm.
each one has their own learning curve. Each one has their own like little things to keep in mind throughout the whole thing. I think it's a lot of fun having like that many unique things to do.
Yeah, I mean, the selection is definitely quite massive.
Oh yeah.
And then it's added by, I'm sure, like, there's a scene for custom tracks as well.
Oh yeah, that's got its like whole like other player base, and a lot of guys keep up with that. A lot of the normal Nintendo track guys play some of those. A lot of those have their own crazy wacky strats. A lot of the time, people find like little shortcuts. That just happened recently with a track called Haunted Gardens, where because it's not like an ultra shortcut, the um, shortcut detection that CTGP has doesn't find it. So something that has like a 15-second, shortcut on it doesn't like get recognized as a shortcut. So no glitch times end up looking not very much like shortcut, not very much like no glitch times.
Hmm.
It gets pretty crazy over there on the CT scene.
Yeah, I know. I guess it's a CGP kind of thing, but if you like do time trials on there, it'll actually like track your times and update it on the leaderboards for you.
Oh yeah, time trialing Mario Kart Wii is a lot of fun, but it would not be anywhere near as tolerable if CTGP doesn't exist. There's just so many quality of life things, so many big quality of life things that just make it infinitely easier to do and keep track of.
Hmm. Yeah, like after the first Salt video, I still had my Wii hooked up, so I just tried, the Wario's Gold Mine Ultra for fun, and I did get like a nice sub 1 minute 3 out of 3 kind of thing just for fun.
Mm.
And yeah, you can go to the website right now and just see my name there, even though I didn't do anything. I just happened to play on that, and it updates. It's like, yep, there you go, does it
Oh
for
yeah.
you.
Yeah,
So
you have
that's
to
quite
connect to
nice.
the database to get those times updated, but as long as you do that, it'll upload everything for you. It's really nice. That Ghost database is definitely one of the biggest things. Mario Kart Wii time trialing wouldn't be anywhere near as popular or fun to do. It wouldn't really be around today if it weren't for CDGP. It's been just such a nice thing to have,
And it's been around forever. So
all the way since like 2010, I think. I think that's when the first distribution came out.
wow, so I really got in on the hype immediately then.
Oh yeah,
But
way back in the day.
oh yeah, I remember the good old tracks that were just incredibly bare bones, mainly just like rectangles with textures on them. But nowadays, they're like some of them look as good as like Mario Kart 8 in just detail. It's kind of crazy.
Oh, there's definitely a lot of great looking tracks. It's a long cry from like I think a lot of the tracks back in the day were made on like MS Paint, and like you could definitely see that with the way that the tracks looked. But there's a lot of phenomenal looking tracks in CTGP. I think one of my favorite looking ones is Thumbbutt Forests. I'd have to think for other ones. I have a really hard time like thinking of things off the top of my head. New
Hmm.
Moon Manor is one that looks phenomenal. I think it's a pretty fun one to drive.
Yeah, I'll have to look up some of the highlights. Yeah, like I haven't touched CTGP in so many years.
Oh, dude,
At least not in
I'd
that
I'd
way.
recommend it. I'd recommend it so much.
I kind of just download whatever distribution looks interesting because CTGP is always limited to like a certain amount of like custom stuff. And some
Mhm.
distributions now, like there's one again, like I said, that has like 4,000 or something.
Yeah, that feels like a little much to me, but
Yeah, maybe not that
hey,
one,
yeah,
but yeah, I'd
I
just
think
rather
some,
play those, I guess. I'm
yeah,
a
that's
filthy
cool.
casual anyway. Like I just play it for fun. I'm no time trialer, but there's some
That's
good
fair.
content out there.
Yeah, whatever makes you happy at the end of the day. CTGP is where you're gonna find the most players and probably the highest quality, but there's other like play styles and packs that a lot of people would prefer for sure.
Hmm. Can like most custom distributions use the same kind of servers for online play?
There's like CTGP servers and there's WeamFi servers. I believe that they're separate things, but they work with each other.
I see.
So, um, I'm pretty sure there's an IP address that you can connect to, like even on Dolphin, and you'll get onto the same servers that CTGP are on.
Hmm.
Don't necessarily quote me on that. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Um, but yeah, you can connect with most people through CTGP, even on other distributions.
That's really interesting. That
Yeah.
it works on Dolphin. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, it gets pretty wacky sometimes. There will, as pretty solid as the security is on CTGP, there will be a hacker here and there that has some pretty wacky item stuff going on.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, every old game that is only held together by duct tape and the community because the developers have given up on it is gonna have a fair share of problems.
Yeah, especially when CTGP is basically run by one guy. There's a couple other people that help, but it's really just Mr. Bean that's kept up that whole thing, coded everything involved with it. He's done so much work as well for just the community at large with
Hmm.
CTGP.
Yeah, yeah, I remember his name from 2010. Looking up the custom content, I didn't realize he was like a time traveler. I saw him in the Summoning Salt video with the Wario's Gold Mine shortcut stuff.
Yeah, he's dabbled in some of that stuff here and there. Mainly gold mine. I think he
Yeah.
just fell in love with that because that was like the first thing that he found in the game. So it's like, you
Oh.
know what? Let's just grind the hell out of this one track. And hey, it worked out. He had that record for like 2,000 days at one point.
Yeah, I mean, long time for that game,
Yeah,
especially with how many players can actively participate. It's pretty easy to get
absolutely.
into.
I think there's only one like record reign that's lasted longer, and even that went down fairly recently.
Yeah, I mean, everything's gonna come down eventually, but
Nothing lasts
yeah,
forever.
that that time period of holding on to it is wild. I think that's more days than I've been around speedrunning. So think about it
Oh
that
yeah,
way is ugh.
it's still like more than double what I've been around for.
Hmm.
Whatever hit reign he had.
Yeah, you don't see that a lot. That's for sure.
Hmm.
And he played on like with a slower character bike combination as well, from what I remember.
Yeah, he just liked using Luigi for whatever reason.
And it worked out, I
Like,
suppose. So there
yeah,
you go.
fair enough. Can't argue with the results. That's for sure.
No, so anyway, uh, time Mario Kart Wii time trials. So let's see. See, I'm trying to remember like all of the really cool stuff, but I'm sure a lot of the really cool stuff are still TAS only and ridiculous. I know Mushroom Gorge, Coconut Mall, Gold Mine, um, Grumble Volcano, now Rainbow Road. I'm only thinking of like the Nitro. I keep forgetting there's like the Retro because I'm so used to playing the custom distributions and stuff that just have every retro.
Mm.
It's like, oh yeah, wait, Nintendo made some of those.
Yeah,
Forgot
that's
about that.
fair. That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, so how many tracks are like RTA like friendly ultra? Because like you said, TAS is like a vast majority of them, but
I think there's ultra shortcuts on like half of them, and there's shortcuts on a handful of others.
mhm. So yeah, TAS can just do so many more than humans can.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that like gets that you can like kind of get close to RTA, but TAS just it puts everything over the ceiling. It just gets you that little bit extra distance, that little bit extra spike that you need to get everything to work.
Hmm.
Those tasks when they come out are real treats to watch.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out more. I think there was some Mario Kart Wii thing at a GDQ, some TAS showcase. I forgot what year, but I thought it was recent. I could be
I think
making
it was
this up, but I'm pretty sure.
I believe that one was 2019.
That's not as recent as I thought it was.
Unless there was one more recent than that. That was the big one that I remember.
Was that, do you know if that was winter or summer? It had to have
I
been
believe it was
summer. I was
summer.
there in winter. I don't
Yeah.
remember it. Okay, never
I
mind.
believe that was a summer GDQ.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have remembered seeing it.
Yeah.
I was at HDQ 2019. I would have remembered. It definitely
Yeah.
wasn't there.
Yeah, fair, fair.
Yeah, that had that Mario like Windows game with the Portal from Portal, obviously. TAS. That's what I remember.
Oh, I didn't really watch much outside of the Mario Kart Wii showcase that there was. I don't
Yeah,
usually outside of games that like I'm already speedrunning.
that's fair. Yeah,
There's just so much content.
there's plenty of it. Yeah, I'm trying to think how much Mario Kart Wii specifically, I guess, content has been in GDQ. That task is like the only thing I could think of off the top of my head. But since just brought up GDQ 2019, I do remember watching a Mario Kart DS uh speed run
Oh geez.
that was there. And that was super interesting because that game has the unique, was it snaking? Is that what they
Hmm.
call it?
It is.
And all of a sudden you're going like triple the speed you should be. And no other game is quite like that, I don't think.
Yeah, that game also has a particularly unique mechanic called prolonged rocket boosting. The start boost at the start of the track, right when you start, has the property of letting you drive in off road, but
Hmm.
like the moment it ends, you can't drive in off road anymore. However, if you never stop, like if you never end up leaving a boost at all, that property it never takes that flag away. So you're able to just drive in the off road at will. Essentially,
Huh.
it's it's crazy to see some of the records that come out because like the mechanical skill that you have to not go outside of that boost for even a frame and some of the stuff that you have to do to maintain that boost around the tracks can be it's a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, I didn't realize it was so technical.
Oh yeah.
That's very crazy, actually. That's
And you
incredibly
have to do
unique.
all of that. Yeah, it's definitely one of the most unique Mario Karts just for that alone.
Hmm. I'll have to look at that again too. I need to just look at every Mario Kart task or whatever.
Yeah, it's get dabbling in all the Mario Karts is it's a real treat to see how unique like every game can be, while still maintaining even like some of like the ways that other games work. Like the first three games drive very similarly,
Hmm.
but they all have their own things going about them.
Yeah. I know, especially like Super Mario Kart and Super Circuit are fairly similar, I'd say, at least in design.
Oh yeah, it's
Just
fair to call
primitive.
them basically the same game with a different coat of paint.
The entirety of Super Mario Kart's in Super Circuit.
Oh yeah, that's true as well. All the tracks are ported over. Those are a pretty good time to have.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I've actually owned every Mario Kart except Double Dash. I've never had a GameCube, even though I had a Wii, but I never like took advantage of that also being a GameCube.
That is the same with me as well. Um, I have I have access to every game outside of emulator. I have them all either on virtual console or on actual like original hardware.
Hmm.
It's a lot of fun to play all of them.
Yeah, I owned everything. I even had Super Circuit cartridge that I could play on the DS because that had the Game Boy Advance slot,
Hmm.
and then 64 and Super Mario Kart were on Wii VC, and then I had a Wii 3DS, and that all worked out. So it was nice.
It,
Plenty of Mario Kart content to be played.
it there's a lot of areas you can access each Mario Kart by via virtual console.
Hmm.
Makes it a
Yeah,
lot more accessible. It's nice to have.
yeah. I don't know, like modern day accessibility, um, because now it's just what the Switch. So it's you're limited to if you wanted to get something today in like not having to buy an old thing, I guess. Like
Hmm.
I don't know how to put it, but you know what I'm trying to say. But
Oh yeah,
yeah, you're kind of limited to whatever is on Switch Online, I guess. And I don't know if they have everything. Um, well, they'd only have like the old stuff, but I don't even know what of the old stuff they have. I assume they have Mario Kart 64 and Super Mario Kart, but that's probably it.
that sounds right.
Oh, they
Did
I know they added GBA recently, but I don't know if they did Super Circuit with that. Maybe they did.
I I'd have to look into that. Um, I feel like I remember hearing something about the Wii U item, the Wii U eShop closing.
Hmm. Yeah, like all
Um,
the eShops are dead,
Man, that really
except.
sucks. 'Cause that's where I got a couple of my Mario Karts. It'd be really
Hmm.
nice to have, everyone have more access to that. But I mean, I guess if they didn't feel it worth keeping the servers up, then oh well. It sucks.
Yeah, I think the only remaining thing is just the Switch, obviously, because that's the thing right now. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm pretty sure everything else is RIP. So you either have had to own it or have to obtain through other means. So
Or pay an online subscription fee for the Switch to have access to them.
yeah, but as I was saying, I'm pretty sure there's only a couple of the old games on there.
Exactly.
So that's the one problem. But yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, I just remember when every game in the series was like pretty easily accessible and not so much anymore.
Very unfortunate to see.
Yeah, but the community keeps it alive, it seems, so that's good.
Yeah, every game has something going on. Every game has people to talk to, people to learn from,
Yeah. How
and
many?
every community is pretty welcoming as well. Pretty
Yeah, I
easy
mean,
to get into them all.
I think speedrunning in general is very open. At least it should be. I haven't seen too many issues with
I sure
any
hope so.
games, so yeah. So, how many like Mario Karts have you dabbled in?
I've dabbled in just about all of them. The only one I haven't like really played is Double Dash.
Mm,
Yeah, I played that for like an hour one day just to try and get into a little bit on emulator. It's it's really hard mechanically to get into because it has a similar snaking mechanic as Mario Kart DS, but it feels a lot more like slidey, a lot more slippery. It's a really hard one to get a handle of.
mm,
Um, I put the most time into Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 64. I think would be a distant second.
mm.
Um, Maybe I put a lot of time into Super Circuit as well. I think Super
Really?
Circuit's actually a lot of fun in time trials.
Hmm. I know the Rainbow Road in that game looks interesting.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to like doing the main fast strap for that, but I mean you can drive essentially wherever you want if you play your mushrooms right.
It is a bit wild, just bouncing around the whole thing.
Yeah, just watching like the mini map, it's like, is there even out of bounds here? Like, what are we doing? It's
They
certainly a fun design for a track. I commend Nintendo for doing something different like that.
yeah. But yeah, I'm not too familiar with like I know a little bit about DS, like I said. I know about Wii and 64, but other like speedrun tech and stuff for the other games, I'm not at all like familiar with. So, like Super Circuit, I don't know what that's like. I just know Rainbow Road funny because you
Yeah.
bounce a lot, but I'm sure the other tracks aren't quite like that. They don't have that
Yeah,
same kind
no.
of thing you can do.
Other tracks are a little more driving. The main tech in both the first in Super Mario Kart and Super Circuit are something called ZZMTs, Zigzag Mini Turbos. Um, I think Salt might have talked about this before, but you have to like um, moderate, not moderate, well, mod your D-pad
Mm-hmm.
to get that little bump off that doesn't let you put opposite inputs on the D-pad.
Yeah.
And it lets you get a lot more mini turbos out on like straightaways, and it saves quite a bit of time. But there's non ZZMT um, scenes for both of those games as well, and I think it's a lot more fun that way personally. But I
Yeah.
haven't I haven't tried ZZMT yet as well. I can see it being a lot of fun, just the process of um, customizing your console to do that
Yeah, I don't know how
is
I feel
something to
about
really bear in mind.
modifying your controller to be able to do something. I mean,
Yeah.
like in everything I do, we ban that kind of thing
Hmm.
because it's
I
like
definitely prefer it that way generally.
unauthorized modification. But I mean, if you separate them, like yeah, that makes sense. And the fact that you can just do it just to see the potential is interesting, I suppose. But
Oh yeah, they're definitely a lot of fun to watch as well. Yeah, every game has their own unique mechanics that are fun to at least look at.
yeah, it is crazy how different each game is. I've always recognized that how different they all are. Like
Oh yeah.
that
Another
snaky
thing
thing
that's
is exclusive to DS, and then Wii's got its own thing. 64's got its skips that aren't too hard. Yes, Super Circuit has that thing.
yeah,
But yeah.
another thing
Anyway,
that's pretty unique to Super Circuit and Super Metroid, or Super Metroid, Super Mario Kart, um, are essentially you can drive into walls in very particular spot on the walls, and I don't remember exactly like what causes that to happen, but it essentially just like changes your position on the track, and it thinks you're at the end of the lap.
hmm,
You can end up getting laps that are one frame on it and getting really fast 3 lap times.
hell yeah.
Like
Just
there's one on
one
Cheese
frame
Land in Super
flaps.
Circuit. Yeah, yeah. Um, Cheese Land. You drive into a mouse at a particular angle, and you spin out into the wall on a specific pixel, and just boom, race over. It's been 3 seconds.
What?
Yeah, I think the record's like 1.86, something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch.
Interesting. Yeah, so are there a lot of tied flaps in that game for the tracks that are one frame then?
Oh, there's tons of them. Yeah.
I see. So that
Flaps
game
aren't even.
doesn't keep track of. Well, I guess they're a lot more primitive, so it makes sense. I'm thinking like how, especially like Mario Kart 64,
Mhm.
it runs at 30 FPS. So in order to like give you a more accurate decimal on the frame you cross the finish line, it like calculates how far across the finish line you are to give you a more accurate time.
Mhm.
So it can give you like actual .01s of differences instead of a frame. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
assume it couldn't do that in like Super Circuit.
I think it does it in every game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe it does it a little bit differently in each of them, but the same idea applies.
Hmm. I
Well,
just
actually,
I just
probably
assumed
in
it
the
wouldn't back then, but maybe
probably in
I'm
the original
stupid.
ones actually, because they only go to 2 decimal places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
I have
So
to look into that.
so in like Super Circuit, for example, you can beat times by .01.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Um,
Hmm.
I think. it might be like a hard like count where like any specific frame goes forward by 0.01 or 0.02 depending on which frame it is. I'd have to look into that actually.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I just know like how 64 calculated it, so I didn't know if it was. And then like we does it to the thousandth, so I don't know how that all works.
Yeah, it does a whole lot of math.
I
Fun
see.
fact: we actually goes to like 12 decimal places, but it only shows you the top three.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it goes past like a tiny fraction of like the speed of light or something. It's like a pictosecond. It's
why?
12 digits. I don't know, man. Just a way
Jesus.
to separate ties on the leaderboard, I guess.
Yeah, it's got to be highly impossible to tie at that rate.
Pretty much, yeah. It's
Jeez.
the idea is definitely to like keep track of ties on the leaderboard, but
Mhm.
it doesn't do a very good job of that because the first like if you set multiple times that are like 0.525, the first one you set is always going to show up at the top of the leaderboard. I believe that's even the case on like the CTGP database.
Mm, interesting.
I don't know what the idea for
Why
that was.
is
Just it's
that's like mind blowing? Yeah, how small it calculates to.
yeah, I mean, I guess like the theory is fine because at the end of the day it's just keeping track of a few more numbers. It's the same math, but
Yeah, I
why they
guess
would, record that in the actual file, I don't know why you bother to do
that's a tad ridiculous. Just a
it.
little bit.
There have been some people that have gotten like their own ghost files to tie down to like the sixth decimal. I think um Guy did that on Peach Beach one time. But past that, I
Jesus.
don't. That's already pushing what's feasible.
Yeah, that's yeah, my mind can't comprehend these numbers, man.
Yeah, they get pretty small.
It's crazy.
It's pretty small to even get like the millisecond improvements, but when you start pushing past that, yeah.
Like I don't know what the shortest like flap off the top of my head is in Mario Kart Wii, but I feel like improvements have got to be at least like .101. Anything beyond that just seems like ludicrously small of an improvement.
They're usually a little bit bigger than that actually, more than like a
Yeah, like
millisecond or two.
I was going off of like the smallest possible thing in my mind.
Gotcha, gotcha. The shortest flap is Grumble Volcano. That one's I think that's down to like 2.8 seconds.
Jesus.
Um, and just the nature of that one, usually improvements are a little bigger than a few milliseconds.
Hmm. Yeah, that's gotta be really hard to do. That like volcano you land on, it's like geometry is so wacky.
hmm
It's
I
gotta
don't.
be
I.
hard.
I'm sure you haven't seen the flap strat yet, but you have to set up in a very specific way, and you have to get a bunch of air, and you have to hit one specific spot, and you have to land in a way that gives you a really fast turnaround, and then you have to hope that the lap counts, which is already a pretty small chance. There's a lot
Hmm.
going on with it in a very small window of time.
Yeah. I just know how it works, like getting up there and where you have to drive past in order for it to count every time. Yeah, I'm not
hmm
familiar with like the it's super advanced whatever you need for world record strategies.
Yeah, world record, also a treat to watch. The battles that have happened on GV have been pretty fun to watch as well.
Mm.
Um, I haven't dabbled with the Quacker strats yet, but I mean it's pretty tough to get it going pretty quick, especially with any consistency.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's another one of those tracks that uses a unique kind of thing.
hmm
Because I guess the smaller characters can they get like more air and then like better turns?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's correct.
Okay, I see. So that makes sense for that because you need very quick turns.
Oh yeah,
That volcano ain't very big.
yeah. Not a whole lot of room to get those turns in.
Yeah, super interesting. But yeah, and then let's see. Yeah, when it comes to the other games, like I was saying, I'm not too familiar. But everything's got some quirk to it.
Oh yeah. There's a reason every game has its own like unique time trial scene.
Yeah. I'm just thinking because, they have their retro tracks in certain games. I wonder how much their time trials differ between games of the same track. That's funny to think about.
It's pretty for the Super Mario Kart ones that are in Super Circuit. It's basically the same.
Hmm.
But with any other game, like they're quite different just
Yeah.
because of like how every individual game drives. Like DS Peach Gardens is one of the first ones that would pop my mind for some reason. But the difference between doing that on the DS and doing that on Wii, it's miles different.
Hmm.
Even doing it on 8 Deluxe because it's in there now.
Yeah.
It's just a world of difference just dealing with each individual game's mechanics.
That's it, it's definitely noticeable in the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because they like added a whole new section to the track. So that makes
Oh
sense.
yeah, yeah. They made lap 3 different. You have to like they like make you turn a different direction
Yeah, you turn around
during
and
the
do the
stream
course
spot.
backwards,
Yeah, I don't know
which
how I feel about that one, but
I
again, hey,
it's
I commend
cool.
him for doing something different. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it can be unique to that game. It's interesting.
yeah. I always like seeing that kind of stuff.
Sometimes you need a little twist to an old classic because the way they originally did retro tracks was just like copy paste essentially. Just if it was 2D, now it's more 3D. That's about it.
Hmm.
Like I
And
especially
even
remember DS. Like yeah, it
yeah,
was just the same tracks
those ones were really rough. It really was just copy paste.
pretty much.
Even like the little differences that you can use with a track can really make it feel a lot different.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's the case with like a GBA Mario Circuit in 8 Deluxe. Literally, all they did was like raise up one of the turns, and it just feels like a completely different track now, even though it's literally like the same layout, the same everything.
yeah. And the other one that stuck out to me is it's a lot of the Super Circuit ones, but the Boo Lake they make it so you go underwater and it's tilted. And though it's the
Hmm.
same layout, it's essentially the same thing, I guess. But yeah, it makes it like unique, and that's not how it really used to be when they did retros.
Oh yeah, I always commend game companies trying to doing something different with that
Hmm.
sort of thing.
Yeah, and it having that twist on like an old classic makes it like worth playing again. You don't have
Yeah,
to like be like, oh, time to play this track again. No, it's like at
time,
least different now.
yeah, time to play this flat track from Super Mario Kart.
Oh, but now it's got one hill, so it's different. But I mean, it actually is.
Exactly. It's those little differences that can end up making something feel entirely unique.
Yeah, that's definitely the point. But yeah, so any cool, notable Mario Kart Wii time trial stuff that you've done specifically?
I have a really hard time grinding at a higher level, but the one track I would highlight for me is one of the ultra shortcuts I actually talked about earlier on Shy Guy Beach.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one that you have to like fall underwater for a tiny bit and then clip off the wall under the track. Um,
Yeah.
I actually have grinded that one quite a bit. I put like 150 hours into it,
Jesus
and
Christ.
yeah, for a speed game, it's not that much. But for like one track, it's quite a bit, especially for me.
I'd say.
Yeah. I actually managed to get a third worldwide time fairly recently. There,
Oh, so you're
I was
just top three in the world?
on that one track. Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
pretty
that's a
big
big deal.
accomplishment for me. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so many people run Mario Kart because it's like pretty easily accessible, especially that one again with the CGGP and how easily it tracks your completed time. So
Hmm.
seems like a big deal to me.
Yeah, it's definitely underplayed, but for how much frustration there can be with going for the ultra shortcut, I think it's a pretty good time.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think it's the most fun track to drive as well because you have to use the Zip, which is one of the outside drift bikes. But instead of being like annoying outside drift, it's actually very fun.
Hmm.
Have you seen like Magic Cruiser time trials at all
No,
on that track?
no.
Basically, you just drive wherever you want because the Magic Cruiser is a vehicle with really high off road,
Mm-hmm.
and the water on Shy Guy Beach doesn't slow you down that much.
I see.
So it's essentially the Magic Cruiser but for outside drift. So you just instead of driving on the actual track, you just drive over the water,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually drives really well in my opinion. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, another
And
one of
then
those
then
like
you have the
unique
lottery ticket.
combinations.
Yeah,
The
yeah. Then you
lottery.
get your lottery ticket on lap 3. Will I get a clip this time? Will I even have a good approach? I don't know.
Is it one of those tricks you can only do once?
Yeah, you have to respawn for it, so you lose your mushrooms. If you didn't lose your
Ah,
mushrooms, you could theoretically do it more than once.
I forget that that game, yeah, takes it away. Because I think
Hmm.
some don't or something. I don't know. It's weird.
A lot of them don't actually.
Oh, so we use the exception. Almost.
I can't even think of one that doesn't do that. I think double dash might take your item away, but I think that's it, honestly.
Wow. Interesting.
7 probably does as well.
Mm,
Okay, 3 exceptions.
okay. Maybe a few. I,
Yeah.
I couldn't think of them, but yeah, that's funny. I forgot that's a thing they do. I know 8 doesn't because when you fall off track, Lakitu picks you up and just takes coins away.
Yeah. It's pretty boring that way. I think it's a lot more fun to respawn,
Hmm.
honestly.
I guess. But yeah, I don't know how. I know like respawning market weed takes a long ass time,
It is pretty slow, yeah.
so it's
You have to like
probably
watch a
nice in
whole
that.
cutscene of falling. Yeah.
And sometimes, depending on like the height of the track, you fall for a while before hitting that
Yeah,
death plane.
there's definitely some trouble spots where you can fall for like a good 5 seconds before you even get a chance to respawn.
It's a while.
It'd be that'd suck a lot,
Yeah.
especially if you get like blued off the side of the track, and then you have to deal with that on top of it.
Oh, I've
Things
had
can
some Mario Kart moments for sure. Yeah.
things can spiral pretty quickly with that sort of thing.
But I guess that's what's good about time trials. There's no like is there like zero RNG or can there be like track things?
There's definitely some track things that happen. Depending on exactly where your vehicle is positioned within a frame,
Hmm.
it can interact with the track differently. Usually, it doesn't affect you at all. Sometimes it affects you a bit. Others kind of stuff can completely change. It completely makes you reset.
Hmm.
Um, there's one. The first thing that would come to my mind is um, the shroom on GCN Mario Circuit. There's that big turn with the chain chomp. What you're supposed
Mm-hmm.
to do is get a little wheelie and some air off of the little bump on the side of the track in between trees, and you can skip basically all of that grass. But if your bike is positioned in a way on the specific frame you're on that bump, and you end up sticking, it's like you can still make it across, but you get slowed down a lot. Um, you basically have to reset if you have any PB that's even worth considering.
Hmm. I didn't realize it was so effective.
Absolutely. There's
Wow.
definitely a lot of other tracks that are a lot more QM reliant on that sort of thing. DK Summit comes to mind.
Mm. Yeah, that's
Um,
very vertical.
yeah, the moguls are definitely one of the biggest time swings you can have on that track at a high level. There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot of control you necessarily have on those things.
Yeah, I understand. That track's one of the ones I think of, like from back in the day, having the shortcuts with the middle section, how easy it is to skip over those gaps.
The first one's pretty easy.
Second
Doing
one's a bit
both
hard.
of them is pretty easy. The regular double, and
Mm.
then in time trials in particular, there's a strat called the Jimmy. Um, you can basically just like if you drive off the first um, gap in a way to land like just on the upper lip of the middle part, you can hop right when you land and you get air and it just like pushes you right to where you want to go.
Hmm.
And you basically just drive at full speed the entire time. You barely even have to slow down.
Interesting.
It's a very precise trick. There is a little bit of QM involved, but it is mostly a skill thing.
What's QM stand for again?
Oh, quantized movement, I believe. That's the
Oh,
name that we give to like the different ways your vehicle can interact with the ground.
I see. It sounds very complicated for Mario Kart Wii.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more complicated when you get into like the task side of things and figuring out how to make it work there. But in
Hmm.
real time, it's just like, oh, I got bad luck that run. Um,
I
oh
see.
damn, I have to reset now.
So instead of RNG, it's QM.
Yeah,
I
essentially.
see. Yeah, because you don't have to worry about. Are like any track-based things that like you're relying on like something on like the track itself, like I don't know how to put this, but like are things on the track that move cycle based, I guess.
There's a
So,
handful of tracks with that sort of thing.
yeah.
Moonview Highway is like the number one example anyone would think of having to deal with those cars.
So
Um,
are they the same like every time you restart?
they are, yeah.
Okay, so okay.
There's no like RNG things in time trials.
Got it. Okay.
Not cycle based. Um,
That answers my
Toad's
question then.
Factory, yeah. The stompers at the start of the track actually dictate the way that you use your shrooms because the world record strat is to use two shrooms like right at the start immediately because
Hmm.
if you don't you end up having to hop around the stompers and that's really really slow.
Mm,
So literally burning two shrooms at the start is faster than doing like the most optimal shroom on the track.
got it. But it's because it's on that cycle every time you restart, it's consistent.
Exactly.
Okay.
Every cycle based thing in time trials is the same every time you play.
That's good. Is that do you know if that's the same on like all Mario Karts or
I believe it's the same for all Mario Karts. I think there's like a couple exceptions here or there.
oh, I
The
just
only
thought
one
of
I
an
can actually
exception.
think of, yeah, Moo Moo Farm from
Yeah,
64.
okay. We thought of the same thing.
Yeah, I know that one's like completely RNG random.
Yeah, the moles that jump out of the ground, that's right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't think there's anything else actually. I think that's
Yeah.
the only one.
It's nice that the time trials because when you think of Mario Kart and you think of like the full game run thing, you think of all the items and so much RNG is involved, but it's nice that time trials are more fully based on your skill, except for obviously whatever Mario Kart Wii's jank physics are doing to your cart.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah, having to deal with like completely random car cycles on Moonview Highway
that would
or
suck.
random stomper cycles on Toad's Factory. I mean, gosh, don't even get me thinking on that. That'd make me so
My
mad having to deal with
apologies,
that.
but
Yeah, I forgive you. It's okay.
okay, good. But yeah, it's nice that they thought of that.
Oh yeah.
So good to know because ugh, yeah, I'm not a fan of RNG myself. So
That's
sometimes
fair.
it's fun, I get it, but when you want something that's definitely dedicated to like your skill level, like yeah, not a fan. So I'm glad
For sure.
they have that.
I do
Very
think a
good.
little bit of RNG is pretty fun in speedruns, but like there's only so much you can take before
Mm-hmm.
like it's just frustrating, especially when you're trying to get like an actually good time.
As a Mario
Um,
3 runner of the shorter categories, Ugh, very annoying.
Oh man.
Can't do that for
One of
too
the other
long.
games that I played, probably the most out of any category, Metroid Fusion.
Oh yeah, you're a
For the most,
Metroider, I've heard.
yeah, yeah. For the most part, that game is like pure skill, just how good your movement is, how well you can handle beating the bosses. But there is some RNG stuff. Um, there's like a total of 90 seconds that can be gain or loss. And
Mm,
while that sounds like a lot, you'll usually be stuck like right in the middle. It's theoretically possible to get like absolutely perfect RNG, but you're not gonna.
mm-hmm.
Um, but RNG isn't so bad in that game that you can't outplay it. Because if you just play perfectly, you can outplay even some of the worst RNG you'll see. It's really hard to do that, but be knowing that RNG won't like completely kill any particular run, I think is what makes RNG more tolerable in certain games.
Yeah, that sounds good. But
I think that's the difference.
when it's literally just go to this thing and roll the dice, then it's like, oh,
Yeah, that's the worst kind of RNG you could think of.
that's what pisses
I
me
don't know
off.
how I don't know how anyone plays like Mario Party speed runs,
Oh my god, I can't imagine.
that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't even find I don't even understand how that would be fun.
That's why I like tasks of that kind of thing because they can manipulate the RNG so you can see what like a flawless thing would look like just from
Hmm.
RNG alone. And that's always interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched any Mario Party tasks, but I can only
I don't think I
imagine
have
like,
either, but there are definitely some games that are heavily RNG reliant that I've seen tasks of.
what are some of the most interesting ones that you think of?
Well, Mario 3 is pretty cool. Um, just because there's so many like subpixel based stuff, and I think I've watched them like before. Like, there's some like subpixel manipulations now, a little bit, but there are some things that are like definitely task only, and it's
Mhm.
cool to just see it pull it off, and then just there's so much RNG and like overworld movements in that game, and to just see like everything work out perfectly,
Yeah,
just
I think it's also fun
interesting.
for those kind of tasks to see like what a task would do, knowing that it's going to get perfect RNG. How it would play differently from like a real time runner.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
if
it
it
definitely
knows
varies
it's going to get
sometimes.
this, yeah, if it knows it's going to get this particular subpixel set up perfectly every single time, how would it play? Like how would it hop into this wall differently? How would it interact with certain objects differently? It's really interesting to think about,
Hmm. Yeah, definitely interesting.
especially if
Yeah,
you're trying to
Mario Kart
implement
64 is the
speedruns
other one I was
again.
gonna say
Hmm.
for like
Yeah.
always getting like a mushroom item in first, which is like I don't know 5%. I don't remember the exact. They have
Hmm.
like all the item distributions mapped out. I forget the exact number, but always getting that perfect luck is
Oh yeah,
funny.
I forgot about that one. That's a shroom in first every time, man. Like,
Yeah,
it's
just every single time you get a mushroom in first.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun to play around.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I like watching when it comes to like RNG heavy stuff. But
Yeah, that's fair. That's
not
fair.
a fan of like playing it myself if it's
Yeah,
it really depends on like the situation, I suppose. But yeah, I
yeah,
usually stick to games that are purely skill based.
that's fair.
But yeah, so just happy to hear that Mario Kart knows what it's doing for the most part. So
Oh yeah,
that's
I'm
good.
definitely a time trials guy. So sticking to like stuff that's a little more around skill as opposed to just hoping everything goes right. It's a lot more fun that way for me.
Hmm. Yeah, because you brought it up, we haven't touched on it yet. So you're also like a Metroid speedrunner, a bit.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, kind of Metroid games have you run?
I've run a couple of the 2D ones, and I've run the Prime Remaster as well.
Mm,
I'm a lot more comfortable with like 2D platform speedruns. I think those are the most fun for
yeah,
me.
that's what I do. So,
Yeah. Um, I back in 2018. This is like right in December. I I had been playing Mario Kart Wii for a couple months, had a great time with that, but I had a desire to like find a game that I had access to that I could like run, like a full actual game that I could run. And I had Metroid Fusion on my
Mm-hmm.
3DS from the Ambassador program as a kid, and I never ended up beating it. There was the spider boss named Yakuza that I was never able to get past. So I was like, you know what? I want to conquer that one. And for whatever reason, that game in particular is one that's just stuck with me. I always come back to it. I've gone so far past what I always think is possible that I could do. Even if I'm not like a high level runner, I'd still consider myself pretty good at the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely in the mix for a lot of the like mid to high tier players. I think it's a really um, beginner friendly speedrun as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Usually when I think of Metro games, they're pretty hard to get into, so that's interesting.
there's a pretty good variety of easy and hard ones to get into. Like the original Metroid, I would never recommend a
No,
beginner speedrun go anywhere near
no,
that one.
no.
Uh, while Super Metroid is really fun, it's really mechanically demanding,
Mm-hmm.
and learning like patterns for bosses. It
Oh man.
I tried doing it a couple months ago so I could actually like get a good time there, but there's just so much going on. And the
Mm-hmm.
bosses are just there's just so much to take into account. It's definitely not very beginner friendly, but Fusion, the bosses tend to be a lot simpler. There's a lot more like items that you can collect on the way that can really help you without like adding 20 minutes to your time necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
um there's a lot less opportunities to die, I think, if you play safer. it's I would recommend it to anyone looking to get into speedrunning. It's also like depending on where you start out, runs can range anywhere from like um hour and 20 to hour and 30 starting out, and I think that's a really good like time area for anyone looking to run like a first speed game.
Meanwhile, I recommend games that are like 10 minutes, but
Yeah,
just that's just me. Depends on what
it
you're
definitely depends.
interested in sinking your time into.
Yeah, depends on the individual person, because I can definitely see like 10-15 minute runs being really easy to recommend and really getting it easy to get into. um and that's totally fair. It's all up to anyone in
Mm,
particular.
yeah.
I've delved into Super Metroid a bit. I played Zero Mission for a couple weeks. Zero Mission is like mechanically basically the same as Metroid Fusion, but everything works a little bit faster, and it's a lot harder than Fusion as well. There's a lot more opportunities for things to spiral out of control and for you to die.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also jumped out of my comfort zone um, about 5-6 months ago and played the Prime remaster. I sped run that for like 3 weeks, and it's definitely a long one. I wouldn't recommend anyone like a beginner jump into that just because it could be pretty long. But um, it was a lot of fun, man. I mean, I have a lot of love for the Metroid franchise, so I think that definitely helped a lot. But I mean, running a game like that, a 3D one, it it's a lot different from running 2D platformers. A, it's just like a different way you have to look at the game as you're playing it. But it really helps to have a variety in the games that you play as
Yeah.
well, as opposed to just running 2D platformers, just running Mario Kart.
Yeah. Variety's fun for sure.
Exactly. So even though the game was like really long, just the fact that it was so different from anything else I played really helped me stick with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. So it's nice to hear some Super Metroid. I know that's a popular game. I've watched a bit of it, but I've never
Yeah.
played a Metroid game. I should do that.
Oh man, I really would recommend it. Metroid's a really fun series to get into, even outside of like a speedrunning context. It's just
Mm-hmm.
really high quality games, really fun storylines. Samus as a character is really fun to play as. It's a great series.
My
No
backlog is
bias,
way too
of course.
big.
Yeah, I definitely feel that as like a not as high level speedrunner. I always have like some project that I want to get into or some game that I want to get back into, and that it just ends up stacking up, and I have 20 things in my head that I want to do in the next year, and I can't get to all of it.
Mm-hmm. I get that. But yeah, I'm pretty familiar with like Nestroid and Super Metroid. I've watched a bit of it and know people that run that, but I'm not familiar with the other games. Are there any like cool, unique things that make them fun?
um, I'd say Super Metroid is probably the more unique one out of
Mm-hmm.
the 2D Metroids.
Yeah.
It's a lot more mechanically demanding as far as like the pixel art ones, because Dread's kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I think they all have their own like appeal, as similar as as like Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission are. Like they each have their own individual things going for them. Like Fusion is a lot more beginner friendly and easy to get into, but it is longer. And Zero Mission is, um, I'd say, more difficult and faster paced. But I mean, the record is 36 minutes, and my own time is like 47, I think. So it's a lot easier to get into as far as like the length of a speed run. Every game has their own individual appeal for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely think so. I've
Yeah.
always said like every game has like something that makes it unique.
Hmm.
So like especially like every Mario Kart has something about it. Like I was just
Oh
saying.
yeah. I do think Super Metroid is particularly different for that. Like the popularity of the game really helps that a lot, just because like the stories that it go through for like the last 15 years of speedrun history, the resources that are available for learning it's vast. There's always people right there ready to help you with everything that you've had, every problem that you've had.
Mm-hmm.
um, I had been watching Oates play the game for like the last year, and even he was playing it for a year and a half. I wasn't there for the whole thing, but seeing him finally pull that run out that he'd been working so hard for, that's the kind of thing you stick around for speedrunning for. And there's a lot of stories like that in Super Metroid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that game has a crazy history,
Yeah, the
and
skill ceiling is like super high too.
it is
Like
wild.
it is as mechanically demanding as it gets for a 2D game. It's a lot, but it's so fun to watch at a high level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like again as someone who's never played it, but I that's like one of the games I can still like I appreciate and know that it is wildly difficult to do what they're
Oh
doing.
yeah, absolutely. There's just so many little things, man. So many little things.
You can
There's a
just
lot more
tell.
unique mechanics to it than to Fusion,
Mm-hmm.
and just you have to know all of it. You have to have everything down in your muscle memory if you really want to have a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I need to get more into Metroid stuff because I mean it looks cool. Like even Nestroid, like it has its door jumps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's super unique. So hearing that every game is also unique. Like I've always said, like every video game has something about it, but it's fun when you can prove it in like its own like an own series of games. Like
Mm-hmm.
every Metroid has something different. Every Mario Kart has something different.
I do think I'd actually recommend Nestroid to you, just because like you've already like shown like that you have the patience for those kind of games.
I don't know about
Um,
running that. I would like to
well, that's fair.
beat it though.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
yeah, I have door jumped before just because it's really not that hard to do. I like
Mm-hmm.
just doing glitches, so
That's
it's
fair.
just fun to mess around with. But yeah, I definitely know a ton of people that have run that, and it's fun to watch. But
Mm-hmm.
you look at that and then look at Super Metroid, and even though same franchise, obviously, they're so different.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that you'll notice about like the Metroid speedrun communities, there's, especially with the 2D ones, there's a lot of overlap.
Hmm.
I mean, the Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission servers, like it's like the same server basically. There's like half the people in each of them.
Hmm. Well, I assume
Um,
for those games, especially since they were like released around the same time for the same platform, there's going to be some similarities.
yeah, yeah, it does make sense for those two in particular. But like you'll see a lot of the same names overlap in different Metroid games. Like Scotty,
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know if you've
yeah,
heard of Scotty. He is
runs everything.
so good at so many different games, but especially Metroid. I
Hmm.
mean, he dominates the Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission games. and he's even got some records in um, Nestroid.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten quite a bit in Metroid 2.
Oh yeah, the Game
I
Boy
think I
one.
think he even got like a I think he got a good record in like a Metroid Prime 2. He's dabbled
Sure.
in so much, man. He,
Mm-hmm.
he's he's unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's even more impressive. Like again, like I have been saying, like just because of the same series, I mean, those are completely different games. So to be so dominant, I mean, those are
Hmm.
different skills you need to learn. Like they don't at all control the same. It's just the same basic premise, but that
Hmm.
it's not going to make the speed run the same.
Oh yeah, Metroid speedrunning is definitely a very close knit community.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. How's the overlap in like Mario Kart stuff? Because those games are pretty different.
There's definitely very different communities for each game. Some of them are a little more overlap than others, like Super Mario Kart and Super Circuit, just like the actual games themselves. There's a lot of overlap with those two game communities,
Hmm.
but like each individual game has their community, and there's almost like a separate sub community that like me has played basically all of the games, and we
Hmm.
all have like a timesheet for most of them, and we all kind of know each other. Um, all kind of just cheer each other on.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot to keep track of with those time charts, especially
Yeah.
with each game having its own stuff.
Oh yeah, it definitely makes it hard when you have a full time job and everything to keep track of, but also trying to maintain time trials for like 8 9 different games. It gets a bit much, but
Yeah,
when
that's
you
fair.
decide to pour time into one of the games, it's very rewarding very quickly.
That's why Mario Kart Wii again is nice. It does that all for you.
Oh yeah, keeps
CTGP,
track
that
of
is.
everything.
Very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see, yeah, no other game has something like that. You have to do that all manually.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, little harder, but yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen the website and like they're all like their own website, but they all link to each other and they have
Hmm.
like the same basic premise, but you can tell they're like different.
Yeah, you're talking about the players page.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a combined players page as well.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, it gives you a score based on like all of your timesheets that you have on the players page, and then it puts you on like an entire leaderboard of everyone that's played multiple Mario Karts with multiple timesheets,
Hmm.
and it's a lot of fun to look at that one and see like all of these like historical names compared to each other based on playing different Mario Karts.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't
Hmm.
know they combined them.
Yeah. See if I can find it. Actually.
Yeah, I just saw the players' pages. And like they have like if you get this time, you're considered this rank in that track, and they do that for every single one. And that's got to be
Hmm.
so much work.
It is, especially when you want to get good times in all of the games. It's a
Yeah.
lot of time investment.
Yeah,
But
that's
with the
fair.
with the absolute rush that it can be to like play time trials, I think it's worth it to get at least a couple good timesheets.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely sounds fun. I mean,
Hmm.
very to get into it sounds very easy as well.
Yeah, there's resources for everything.
Yeah, especially again, Mario Kart Wii. If you just set up CTGP, it does it all for you. You don't have to worry about anything. You just go
Hmm.
ham. I'm actually curious. Obviously, like CTGPs can track the original tracks, and then obviously it can also track the whatever tracks they have in the CTGP rotation at the time. But
Hmm.
how did it? Can it do like uh, other customs?
Yeah, it does. If you have like another track like in your My Stuff and you have
Hmm.
it so
I
that
see.
it like when you turn on My Stuff and you pick like Koopa Cape and you have a different track put on that file, it can save ghosts for those kinds of tracks too.
Wow. So it really can just do everything.
Pretty much.
That's crazy. So, I are there any like really popular custom trials? I know I asked a little bit about it, but
Uh,
I assume most people flock to the original tracks, but there's got to be some like heavy hitters.
yeah, Mushroom Peaks.
Really?
Yeah,
That's a
that
name I
one.
recognize from 2010.
It has not been updated since like 2010,
Oh, great.
2011. Yeah,
That's
everyone
nice.
clamors for it to happen, but it just doesn't. Mr. Beat's very stubborn about that one. Um, GBA Mario Circuit. Um,
Hmm.
that one actually gets a lot of playage. It drives really well. Um, I thought I had more to say on that one, but yeah, I don't know. It just drives really well. It's very smooth.
the other
Um,
the other thing I know of is that like a lot of the tracks that are retros, like a lot of people make their own rendition. So
mhm.
not only are you like keeping track of GBA Mario Circuit, for example, I'm sure there's like multiple GBA Mario circuits.
Oh yeah. People really only keep up with in time trial the ones that are actually in the pack.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
sometimes those tracks get updated, and the leaderboards are wiped at that point for the track.
Mm,
Um, so if a track gets updated, you have to restart from the beginning, essentially.
I see.
Yeah, it can be a bit frustrating in that way, but it's just how the system works.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Um, I do think a lot of like the retro tracks drive really well. They can be a bit boring, like layout wise, but they were originally designed by Nintendo, so they're gonna like drive pretty well at the very least.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Exactly.
But yeah, like some tracks have many different renditions, especially if it's been in multiple games. Like they'll make like the retro version and the Mario Kart 8 version, and then maybe they'll make their own whole remake version. It's like
Hmm.
so many options for just the same damn track.
Yeah, usually the ones that get into Wii CTGP are like the later versions of it, like
Hmm.
the 8 Deluxe version of the track. It can be a bit. I kind of prefer sometimes like just a basic original layout, but I understand why they do that
Hmm.
sort of thing.
Yeah, I like both. Like I personally nowadays play a lot of Mario Kart Wii Deluxe. It's a good custom track distribution. I play it on Dolphin quite a bit if I'm just bored, because
Yeah,
I just love playing Mario Kart Wii specifically. And they actually have it where they have every retro track, and it'll randomly select from a couple different options. So if you select like, what's a good example? I guess I can use GBA Mario Circuit. Like you can get the normal one, or you get like the Mario Kart 8 version where they make like a their own like raised version, and it'll randomly select between the two if you're playing for fun.
that's
I only
actually
wish there was a
really
way you
interesting.
could choose which one you play. Yeah,
Yeah,
as far as I know, it's
that's
random.
I really like that idea actually. That'd
It's
be pretty
nice.
intriguing.
And
Yeah.
then like for like Wii tracks, for example, it'll choose between like the normal track and like maybe a different skin. So like maybe
Mm.
now it's at night or now it's raining or something.
Oh yeah, that is really cool. Damn.
It's very
I,
nice. I
I'd love
quite
to have a
enjoy
little.
that game.
I'd
But
love to
then
have a
some of the
little
ports
interaction
are
like that.
like they tried to port a lot of the tour tracks, so they're very sketchy looking, but
Mm.
I'm sure the ports for those tracks are very like new, so obviously they're not going to be great.
Yeah. I I'm not sure if we've had any of the tour tracks in Mario Kart Wii, but I can only imagine they'd be pretty underwhelming for
Yeah,
having like downgrade them to a different
they gotta
console
they
in
gotta
that
have some
region.
work to them before
Yeah.
they're fully ready. Like they're
Okay.
so obviously just ported from the mobile. Like that's all.
Yeah.
But that's how it starts.
Yeah. Got to start somewhere.
I know the first ever Mario Kart Wii custom track was SNES Rainbow Road,
Mhm.
like this super overstretched, garbage-looking version.
Yeah. I
But I remember it. I'm pretty
think I
sure it was
remember
in.
seeing that one. Yeah.
God, I'm trying to remember back to 2010. Ugh, too long ago. Hardly remember. Um,
I wish I could go back that far.
it was interesting.
Yeah.
The tracks were definitely very primitive, but I remember having a good time and being able to remember what that was like and then look at it nowadays and seeing just how much it's improved is very cool.
Yeah. It's a lot of the quality of life stuff that just really makes everything tied together so much better.
Oh yeah, like the effort people put into it now is ridiculous, and
Hmm.
having so many different distributions you could choose from that have a lot more content than just the standard CTGP because they've never added more. They always just replace, and it kind of sucks. Like maybe you liked it, and now it's gone from there.
Yeah. As far as like a custom track pack experience, CTGP is quite vanilla, and
Mm-hmm.
I do like it in that way. But
Yeah, it
I
stood the
feel like
test
there
of
could be a
time.
little more. Yeah, I feel like there could be a little more there sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of options, so that's good. It's just that one's definitely the like easiest to get going, I guess.
Mhm.
Although I remember back in the day, I had to do it the old-fashioned way. I don't know how easy it is to get it working on your Wii now, but yeah, I guess I never homebrewed. I never needed to homebrew. I just did the letter bomb and could get CDGP without homebrew channel. I don't remember. This was so long ago.
I believe homebrew is the method you use it to get on Wii U, and the letter bombing is what you use to get it on Wii.
I see. Yeah, again, 2010, long time ago.
Yeah, I can't speak that far back.
But
I doubt.
yeah, homesick from middle school. Gotta letter bomb the Wii and play custom tracks. Can't believe I did that back then.
It's
It was a pretty
anything
streamlined
to pass
process
that
though.
time. Yeah,
It wasn't too
be
hard.
pretty. Yeah, be pretty easy to download those files. Throw them in the.
I felt so cool when I got it to work though.
Oh, absolutely. You feel like a little hacker, especially if you're a kid.
Yeah,
Like you
hacker
imagine
man.
like you're Neo from the Matrix hacking into it.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun with it. So
Hmm.
it's nice to see the community going strong with their custom
Oh yeah.
content.
And
And
there's always getting like new custom track best times getting set. The CTGP YouTube channel has always got content going up. Those
yeah,
runs are really good time.
yeah, I'll have to look at some of the like world records for some of them. I'm
Oh yeah,
sure there's some cool, unique stuff you wouldn't see anywhere else there. And if
there's
you're already a
definitely a
fan
lot
of
of.
Mario Kart Wii, you can kind of understand like what's going on.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes.
there's definitely a lot more jank on a lot of the custom tracks. But
And
I mean, it's fun. It's really fun to watch for sure.
yeah, Jank is fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But yeah, I was gonna say something, but it slipped my mind. So now I'm
That's fine. It
trying.
happens all the time.
Yeah, especially with me.
That's fair.
uh,
That's fair.
well, I'm not sure quite what else I wanted to bring up. I think I think we covered most stuff though, right?
I think so. Got through like some Metroid stuff. Got through a lot of Mario Kart stuff. I think we covered the
Yeah,
basics. Everything.
yeah. Super interested in Mario Kart stuff, so it's nice to learn a bit more about it. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not too familiar with the time trial scene. I've definitely just browsed here and there, but I've always been more of a casual. Although
Yeah.
I do have a funny story from what I remember. Maybe you'll like it, but um, God, I don't even know how long ago it was, but my town would like have this fair, and one time they had this little booth where you could uh play Mario Kart, a Mario Kart Wii time trial. I think it was Mario Circuit, and I won some money from that.
Oh wow.
That was fun. I even like hit a Goomba on the last lap, but still got like second place, so got a nice $50. And then when I was in college, I remember I they had a little Mario Kart Wii tournament in like this little gaming event they held, and I won that with
Hey.
and my flexes. I did that with motion controls. I was
Oh wow.
using tilt controls, and I won that thing.
Yeah, those the Wii wheel is pretty tough one to get a
I didn't
handle on.
I didn't
So
even have the wheel. I just tilted the moat.
Oh yeah, yeah. You don't need
Yeah, you
the
don't need.
whole prosthetic around it to do it.
Yeah, that's how I just used to play. As a kid, I always played with motion controls, so that's what I was used to. So that's what I used,
Hmm.
and I just happened to win that event. But
Nice.
obviously now when I play, I use a standard controller. But I just like to flex that because it's just a funny story. But I have my history with Mario Kart Wii. I definitely
Yeah,
like it. So
yeah. I'd flex that every day. Can't blame you at all.
yeah, I've made like $100 off of Mario Kart Wii. Who can say that?
Oh yeah, gotta grind every day.
I I didn't even grind. I
Well,
was
the
just
money grind every day, not the
the
Mario Kart
money
grind.
grind. I wish Mario Kart
Sometimes,
Wii made me money. I'd be playing it a lot
yeah.
more.
Hey, me too,
Those are
buddy.
just
Me too.
two lucky instances of random IRL events that happen to take place near me.
It sounds like a pretty good time, man.
Yeah, especially that like in town thing. I was that was like a long time ago. So that's when
Yeah,
Mario Kart Wii was probably still the most recent Mario Kart.
mhm. Yeah, that's a little while ago.
I
I
couldn't
always
tell you
love
how
thinking
long
about
ago
the
that
memories.
was, but I
Yeah.
remember it, and then obviously college wasn't too long ago in comparison, so I
Hmm.
remember that one pretty well. But yeah, so there's my Mario Kart history, I guess.
Hey, everyone's got something. It's a pretty big
Yeah,
franchise.
yeah, I got a few times that are on the CCP leaderboards just because it keeps track of that for you. So
Hmm.
yeah, nice 55-second Warriors Gold Mine, I think. Could be worse. No pipe jumps, so not bad with
Yeah.
having to respawn every time.
Oh yeah. I don't think that's bad at all. I
Yeah.
think my first 3 out of 3 there was like a 50 second.
Mm.
So a 55 without like any pipe jumps at all. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's fun to
Yeah.
mess around with, and then it's fun. Whenever boots the game, you can just pull off one of the easier ultra shortcuts like Rumble Volcano.
Hmm.
Just be like, haha. I think I did that at
Yeah.
GDQ at some party. It was just
Mhm.
just for fun. So
It's definitely nice that not all of the ultra shortcuts are like the QM like wall clip
yeah,
reliant stuff. There's some really easy ones that you can just jump right into.
yeah, that is interesting. Most of the Mario Kart Wii stuff are like super precise BS. I think I was talking about it, but there are a couple. Rumble Volcano's what like comes out in my mind, but like Wario's Goldmine's all right. I mean, it is pretty hard though to figure out exactly what to do when you're starting out.
Hmm.
And I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
Mushroom Gorge is a pretty easy one.
Yeah, I'm sure it is if you learn it, but I've never been able to pull it off. I don't think.
You do have to have a little bit of practice getting around the rock, but I
I'd
mean it's
always
pretty
just
consistent once you know what you're doing.
fall down, not get any
Yeah,
height.
that's fair. Coconut Mall is relatively consistent depending on the entry method you use.
Yeah, but that is a bit precise still. Like
Yeah.
it's great. Like I brought this up again, but it's crazy. Like Mario Kart 64, how easy some of the stuff is, and then
Hmm.
like Mario Kart Wii, there's like a good amount of its own like skips, but they're like a lot harder. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely a big change in skill ceiling. Like Mario Kart 64's got its hard stuff, but it's got a lot of easy stuff as well.
Yeah. There's
Where
Rainbow Road's one of the first one that comes to mind. Waluigi Stadium or Wario Stadium.
Mario Stadium, yeah.
Yeah,
Frappe
yeah.
Snowland's really easy.
Oh, that one's the free one.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just drive forward,
Yeah.
drive backwards, drive forward. But well, there's a little bit more to it than that, but essentially it's as easy as that.
Yeah. It's nice to have that accessibility there with easier stuff.
Hmm. It sounds like Super Circuit's got that kind of ultra shortcut esque thing with its wall clip, whatever.
Oh yeah. It's got every game's got something. Mario Kart DS has like some respawn stuff. Same with
Hmm.
um Double Dash.
I know,
I think
yeah,
Salt actually made a video about that.
yeah. I saw that double dash thing. That every game is like some complicated way of how it does its skips. Well, I guess 64 isn't as complicated until you get to like high level, but like every other game, it's like You got to do some
Yeah,
wacky stuff to confuse its checkpoint system or whatever.
yeah.
It's very interesting. Then I
It's definitely a
assume
fun.
Su- Super Mario Kart's pretty straightforward, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, there's a couple of like those same wall clip type stuff, but like the main shortcut categories for that one are like if you drive into like specific points on the wall in specific ways in a shroom, it extends your boost for whatever reason a lot longer. The same
Hmm.
mechanic actually exists in Super Circuit.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know why that works, but
So they really are just super similar,
yeah,
more than you'd
they're
think, I guess.
oh yeah. You think they'd at least be coded fairly differently, but like the same stuff is just in each game. Like that, um, God, I forget what the exact word is, but that wall clipping for an extended shroom boost. Like, how would that even exist in both of those games separately? I don't even understand how that works.
Yeah. I mean, they did put all the courses from Super Mario Kart into that game, so maybe it was a little more than just the courses that they put into that game. So
I mean, they probably just use like the same engine to actually like build the courses, I guess, in the same lap
it's
count system.
possible. I'm no game dev, so I don't know, but
Mm.
something like that maybe. Just
Yeah,
interesting that it carries over some of the same stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, and then I don't know like what skips look like in 7 or 8. I don't even know if there are any.
There's a handful of respawn stuff in Mario Kart 7.
I know
Um,
about Maka Woohoo, I think it's called. That had
yeah,
like a
that
pretty
one.
infamous one.
Yeah, there was that one. There was Maka Woohoo and then Woohoo Loop that both had ones like way back in the day, like
Hmm.
pretty much right when the game came out. I think the Maka Woohoo one. I think you jump into that little lake on the side and then you respawn at like the top of the track.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Woohoo Loop one, like you drive off the track a certain way, like towards the end, like where like the lighthouse area is, the alternate path.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just respawn like one turn away from the finish line for whatever reason.
Sure.
I don't it's a very strange looking one. I don't even know how that could possibly work, but hey, it does. It does. I can't argue with it.
That's good, I guess.
And 8 and 8 Deluxe, I don't even think they really have anything at all, like
Yeah,
anything worth of note, just
that
because of
seems
the
more like a
respawn system.
technical thing. Like
Yeah,
they
they
preventing you from doing anything cool in that.
yeah, I think Nintendo just got mad at everyone for breaking all their games, so they're like, you know what? No more respawning. No more. Lakitu's just gonna pick you up from now on.
That is like a smart way of preventing that, I guess.
And it'll do the job, but is it as fun? No.
Not quite.
I I feel like there needs to be like, a really easy way to prevent that as well by just like having a checkpoint system that works a bit differently in time trials than it does online.
Hmm.
Like like if you have like the Mario Kart Wii checkpoint system, but you're not allowed to skip like the key checkpoints. Like that's a thing in CTGP. The ultra shortcuts don't work online.
Mm.
Um, so like if you really want to code something like that, it'd be really easy to do. Like you'd still get the shortcut stuff in time trials that people really enjoy, but you wouldn't get them online. You could easily do that.
Wait, so did they change it so you can do it online, or was it always like that?
Um, I mean, you can do them on like Nintendo servers if you manage to connect to them, but
Okay,
CTGP
so
itself has like
they patched it essentially.
yeah,
Okay, okay. So I can't go into a worldwide get Grimble Volcano and just go around.
that's correct.
Unfortunate. What's even the point?
Terrible game now.
Unfortunate. No, but that makes perfect sense. I didn't know
Yeah.
that though. I learned.
You can't you can do it in frooms. You can allow ultra shortcuts in like friend rooms, but
Well, yeah,
actual online no.
that's funny.
Yeah. I do think it's better that way because like imagine Mogi Lounge with ultra
I
shortcuts.
don't know what that is.
Oh, it's like the competitive online format for Mario Kart.
Hmm.
It's particularly popular with Wii.
I have no idea what. I've never heard of this.
Yeah, so imagine like did you ever watch any like the Mario Kart Wii World Cups?
There were World Cups.
Yeah, there are fairly big like tournaments. I mean, just like imagine competitive online Mario Kart, except with ultra shortcuts, and how
Mhm.
boring that would be. Imagine 12 Funky Kongs trying to do Grumble Volcano.
I don't know. That seems funny.
It'd be funny, but like in a competitive
No,
setting,
yeah, obviously. Hmm. But yeah, I didn't know there were like straight on like tournament stuff online.
yeah, there's usually like a cup that happens once every year or two.
Hmm.
It USA wins it like every year. Um, but
Represent. No,
yeah, exactly.
interesting.
It's a fun time. Mario Kart Wii competitive online is definitely a lot of fun to watch,
Hmm.
especially in those 4v4, 5v5
Hmm.
tournaments.
Do you participate in anything like that?
No, I had one little like phase in early 2021 where I played some of those open lounge um games for a while, but
Hmm.
online competitive isn't really my taste.
I know that it's kind of wonky and online for Mario Kart Wii. Like there's definitely some like lag and stuff, and people jump around sometimes. Items kind of go a little wacky, so I don't know how that works in like a competitive scene.
There's a lot of stuff like that to work around with online. Um,
Hmm.
it it takes a lot of practice to be able to work around it. But
Hmm.
yeah, people can teleport around. Items can just be in a different spot than you think. It's weird.
Yeah, so I stick to not online usually, but I'm no competitive player, so I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, time trials is much more my speed as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been 2 hours. I think we covered most of everything. Those 2 hours flew by, but here
Yeah.
we are.
I was thinking it was like an hour and a half, maybe. That was pushing it, but 2 hours, yeah, that flew.
Yeah, that's how it goes, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, and anything I missed that you want to mention?
I don't think so. I think we got the basics of it. I mean, if I think of anything later, we can talk offline, but
well, well, I guess we can end things off here. If anyone has any questions in chat, feel free to let me know, get them answered. But until then, I guess feel free to self promote if you would like.
oh yeah, just ultra underscore pair on Twitch, YouTube. Those are pretty much the main social media platforms I use. I use Twitter quite a bit. I'm on Blue Sky there. It's pretty much that.
Yeah, I keep forgetting Blue Sky exists. Maybe I should start adding that to my
I've had an account there for
stuff.
a couple months, and I also keep forgetting I have it.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have an account. I just meant adding it to my like
Yeah, yeah.
the socials of guests and stuff. But
Gotcha.
uh, it social media is complicated. I don't like
Oh
thinking
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, me neither. I use it quite a bit too much.
Yeah, I mainly use it to get my news of speedrunning stuff. Like I don't use it how a lot of people use it, but
That's fair.
yeah. I guess I'll do my outro here. Thanks for watching. Watching on Twitch. Missed anything? Check out the YouTube playlist. Follow the YouTube. Watch it on YouTube. Stream these live, usually on Sundays. You can watch that. Know how it is. And yeah. Um see y'all next week. Bye bye now. Have a good one.